Oh, did you remove the... It's live, but it's not got the video clips. Did you remove
Yeah,
them?
that'll be my bad. Yeah, because I was recording with somebody earlier, and I took it off so that we did, because there was no use for it. There was no use for it, so I just didn't use it. So yes, that's my bad that it's been taken off. But I only just got the media assets on. Welcome everybody. I only just got the media assets on because when I first came on, it wouldn't let me switch them to the Hearts one, so I didn't even have time to even consider it. So apologies. That's my fault.
No problem. Do you want me to present?
Yeah, go for it.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful for audio and viewing for people. Is me and Craig making arse of things.
It'll get edited off the podcast.
No, that's fine. I'll just chuck up. Who cares? Welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked, and I am joined, as you'll have known now, because we've just had a conversation as if no one was here, joined by Craig Cairns. How's it going, Craig?
Yeah, good. I tried to make it sound like we were aware of what was going on there rather than people had just tuned into something that they shouldn't have. But yes, sorry about that, guys. Just it's been such a busy day. You can let us off because it has been a very, very busy 24 hours for Hearts.
It has been, and that's where we're going to try and distill it all down in 20 minutes because I have, if we can, maybe half an hour, but I've got to shoot off very shortly. So we will just... What the hell was that?
Just ignore it.
This is turning into a disaster. But yeah, we'll jump in straight into it, and I'll do the message here. This is the disaster. Hearts Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Wow. Right, where shall we start? Stuart Findlay.
Yes. I think... I thought that was the question. Sorry, on you go.
No, that was essentially the question. Stuart, what do you think?
Well, we knew it was happening, and there's quite a lot of good stuff on Hearts Standard behind the move and why Hearts have gone for someone like Stuart Findlay. And yeah, I think he seems to have all the physical attributes that you would want. He's worked with Derek McInnes before. He's got a lot of experience in this league. It seems to make a lot of sense, the signing. Leadership qualities, all these kind of things. The only question I've had, and I've not really... we've both individually been very busy and not really spoken about things as much recently, but the one question, you might want to park this for a wee bit until we talk about Findlay, but what does it mean for Jamie McCart? Because it's the two left-sided centre-backs and not as many matches next season with the European games.
I think it's as simple as they'll be competing for a place as left-sided centre-back in a back four. Simple as that. It's competition, and I think that's what Hearts will probably run with, is two left-sided centre-backs, two right-sided centre-backs, and go from there. So you've got cover either side, plenty of competition, and you do think Stuart Findlay coming in is probably jumped to the top of the pecking order just because of his previous experience with Derek McInnes. He has now, as I was speaking to someone and kind of got some data from last season and some insight into speaking from another club, and got some insight, and the data they saw, or the research they were doing into it, was Hearts were probably one of the more or not one of the least mobile defences, kind of just looking at sprint speed and stuff like this. Whereas Kilmarnock were kind of there was a lot of opposites with Kilmarnock. So I do think Findlay's been brought in to add pace and mobility to the back line, and we've seen it. You wrote about it with McInnes coming in at St Johnstone. He likes pace in his defence. He likes to sometimes man mark. Some wants to push up the pitch and be in opposition's faces. So you need someone who is able to run back, is able to defend one-on-one. And Findlay, by all accounts, does all of that. The reaction from Kilmarnock fans said a lot about their disappointment of him not coming back, he's been their best player over the last couple of seasons. I would say the most consistent, and he obviously missed a big chunk of last season. I don't think it's a surprise that when he was out the team, that the team didn't perform so well.
So that was kind of my point, that if you look at both signings, they're both very, very similar profile, similar length of deals, same position. It's not like it's one who's a first-team player and another one who is maybe first, I don't know, a bit younger and trying to make their way in and like establish themselves as a first-team player or whatever it is, like somebody who's more willing to play backup. And I just wonder whether you talk about Findlay may have jumped him in the pecking order. I mean, I don't disagree with anything you're saying there, but is McCart going to be happy to kind of settle for that? And are there going to be enough games to kind of, especially over the first season anyway, if Hearts aren't in Europe, it could be for future seasons that it's not so bad. But you just wonder whether either of them would be happy with spending large chunks on the sidelines, which might happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question I don't think any of us can answer. It's only them that can answer it, and it's one where it's no footballer doesn't like like not playing football. So it's but at the same time it's competition, and it's going to hopefully be push both on and just add to the defensive depth that there is at the club. But I do think just with Findlay, I just think he's probably different to a lot of what Hearts have got already at centre back, and I think that was I don't think he would have been signed if Critchley was still manager. I don't think, but just because of McInnes coming in and his view on what he wants in terms of different profiles of players he wants to bring in, i.e. mobility, pace, etc., then that's where the club turned and looked at the options, and obviously Findlay was one of those that came up via Jamestown, and they had that connection with McInnes in the past. So yeah, there's plenty of centre-back options now, and yes, I would imagine that 2, maybe 3 would move on. Where would we go from Findlay? We'll move on to go back to last night, where it was approved, where the general meeting was held at Tynecastle Park at 5 p.m. to approve essentially Tony Bloom's investment proposal into the club to become a minority shareholder. There was 3 resolutions that had to be approved. Those resolutions were, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I'll get this article up. It just tells them. So it was to provide authority to the board to issue shares of 63,917,644 non-voting shares to Tony Bloom. Provide authority to the board to disapply preemption rights which would otherwise apply in respect of these non-voting shares, and to approve the adoption of a new set of articles of association for the club. In short, just to basically 3 resolutions to approve Tony Bloom's investment. Of course, it was a very straightforward process, and now Hearts have moved one step closer to welcoming and completing the deal with Tony Bloom.
Yes, and you were there, and there's a good piece on the site about it, and there was a couple of, I suppose, interesting things. I mean, all these kind of things were almost a formality. We kind of going through the process of kind of formal processes to get these things fully implemented. But I suppose some of the interesting stuff, some of the sort of colour that you had added from that story that you put up about the stuff from the crowd, the comments from the crowd and the questions from the crowd. One, I like how you used the word statement, not a question at one point.
Yeah.
It's good that there's, I mean, there hasn't been much, but it's good that there is some dissenting voices in there. It's always good to hear why people would have an issue, and it's always good to just not have uniform opinion, like 100%, everybody thinking the same and voting things through. Like, it's healthy to have people dissenting in certain ways. But one of the things that stood out to me was the somebody making a point of saying to Budge and to McKinlay that they felt that abuse that they got is abhorrent. I can't remember exactly
Deplorable.
the word. Deplorable. And it wasn't representative of the fans, and it got an applause. So, I mean, that's kind of good to know, because I think it's, even for us, I think it can be easy for us to, because Twitter and social media is there, and like in the stadium, the loudest people get heard, that kind of thing. But certainly on social media and things like that we kind of rely on, and it's easy just to get like a quick opinion on things, and all like a quick canvas of opinion and that kind of thing. But it's kind of, it's good to know that there is a sort of core out there that maybe aren't represented on these things, that that have different opinions. That it's not everybody's not budge out, if you see what I mean. I think is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, that's something that I go on about all the time, is that there's almost every facet of Heart of Midlothian Football Club is divided one way or another, because there's so many different opinions, and that, which is good and which is healthy. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, or sometimes it can be tedious. But in the main, it's good to have, like you said, the different opinions around it. I would say that in the shareholders there's more sort of a subset of fans that are amongst there, as opposed to those who go those opposed to the bigger average of the kind of match going fan, if I'm saying that correctly. So it's something that Scott here says is probably. Scott says personal abuse is not on, but the concerns on direction and ability are many, and that's kind of where I stand. Is like, I'm find personal abuse quite. It's like, I know people do it. I don't get offended by it, but it's a wee bit over the top at times. But I do think that there's absolutely, fans are well within the right to, if they don't feel like the club's being run well, to voice their opinion and criticise. And then the other thing that you brought up was the not the dissenting voice, the people who were against it. There was 3 people that I could see I think, and I had that confirmed by someone else, there was 3 people that voted against it, and one of them was he articulated asked a couple of questions, and the questions were pertinent. He was asking about what the money would be invested in, and then he was just seeking clarity about if Tony Bloom sells his shares. So again, just maybe a wee bit apprehensive, having gone through the Romanoff era. However, as expected, and thankfully the vast majority in the room backed it, as the foundation of Hearts did. So that should be confirmed, all completed within the next 7 to 10 days. By end of June, Tony Bloom should be a minority shareholder at Hearts.
Yes, we've got a question here. Somebody, Robert Gill, is asking, what were the changes to the articles?
Something that I don't know the specifics of the Articles of Association. I've not done the fine reading, so I'm not too sure. But it's explained in the there's a lot of like.
So is it
jargon stuff? So it's explained in the meetings, the notice of the meeting, and the new Articles of Association.
Is it to do with things like, so the previous ones, for instance, would have said that a certain amount of shareholding had to be retained by the Foundation of Hearts, and is that one that's changing so that it has to? No, it was like a bracket. It was like a range of shares. It was like over 51%.
No, that's Foundation of Hearts rather than the club.
Right. Okay.
I think,
no
but it's I apologize. I don't know the actual specifics of the Articles of Association.
Well, I apologize for putting you on the spot. I thought it was something maybe you'd written about before, but it is very technical stuff. Where are we going to move on to from there, Joel?
Findlay Pollock signed a 1-year deal. That was one that's probably didn't see coming, but can understand it. He is on his way back from injury. Should be back this fully fit this summer, and it comes off after a successful loan spell at Raith Rovers last season. And I just wonder if it's a wee bit of gives him a wee bit of breathing space, having done well last season on loan at Raith Rovers, and it just gives him a wee bit of security to get back playing and hopefully kick on again. And it gives Hearts a wee bit of security if he does kick on and does really well this season, or if he gets a loan move this season and does well, that it gives him security that maybe he is part of the longer term plans.
Yeah, it is a very interesting one. I suppose he's in the same boat as a few other players we've been talking about, where there will be pre-season. They'll be up until September, basically, to have an outside chance of being part of the plans at Hearts in the upcoming season. What's more likely is there'll be another loan. I think that extension maybe, as you say, it relieves the pressure a bit, and it means that a loan doesn't have to be for the entire season, but I think it does make a loan a bit more likely. And then, I don't know, we talk about Macaulay Tate probably looking at a Premiership team if he's going out on loan. I'm not entirely sure Pollock would, or whether another sort of like top-end Championship team would be a good move for him. But it's an interesting one because he seems to have got bigger recently. He's always been quite quick, but they found a new way to utilise his pace at Raith. He went there as a winger, didn't really get much game time initially. I think he scored off the bench in the first game he played, came on the first half because of an injury and scored in the first game that he played. Then he wasn't really in the team. Neil Collins, the manager at the time, was playing a back three a lot, and he never really got into the team. And then Barry Ferguson took over, and I think he played a back three a lot.
Barry Robson.
Barry Robson. Who did I say? Barry Ferguson. My God, what a day I'm having. He played a back three a fair bit as well, but then started to use Pollock through the middle. There was a game against Airdrie where they had quite a few injuries, including in defence. Airdrie did, and then Robson decided that he wanted some pace to test their back line and get them running back. And he put on Pollock there, and he basically never looked back. He played there the rest of the season, went on a scoring streak. Like, I can't remember if it was 5 goals in quick succession. I can't remember if it wasn't quite 5 in a row or anything like that, but it was quite quick. And then his season ended abruptly through injury. Called in at under 21s for the first time before that. Less said about his debut, the better. But so it's been quite the season for him. A bit of everything in there. He's a guy that's carried injury issues with him, and I think he needs to kind of shake that off. But who knows what's going to happen to him over the next 12 months and regarding where he'll play.
I went back to the interview I did with him earlier in the year, and he did like one thing that stood out was he talked about the benefit of the loan. He just basically just saying he hopes to get to play the full season without any injuries. But the fact that last season was still the season he's played the most football, which again is encouraging. So, like you said, I just think he needs another loan where he plays regular football, and if he can just play the full season, I think that'd be great for his body, but also for his mentality. He's just on the mental side, that to give him that confidence going forward, because he is a player that I really like, and just the fact he's got so much pace is you don't want to give up on that. And I know it's the lone league, but watching him at the start of last season, he was just electric. He was just so quick, and he was just dominated fullbacks. And yeah, it'll be not interesting not only to see where he maybe goes on loan, but how he's used or utilised on loan, whether he's a winger or a striker. That's certainly one to keep an eye on, and also be curious when we get to speak to Derek McInnes over the next few weeks about how he sees him, like maybe if he views him as a winger or a striker. So yeah, more on that at our time. I would just quickly talk about Gus Stevenson. He's another one that signed a new deal today with the B team. He will midfielder. I remember seeing him. I think the first time I seen him was the under 18s, and he was in centre of the pitch, and he was all over the place, in a good way. Just covered so much ground, and really tenacious, kind of good on the ball, but aggressive off it. He's had up and down, like injury and stuff. He's been out of the 18s. He's played with the B team. He's had about 45 games at lower league level. He's played around different positions in midfield. They've used him higher up the pitch. They've had him out wide. And this season coming, I'd quite like him to get just like a settled role and build on it. And I hope that, and I can expect him to be a kind of key part of the B team, having moved up from the 18s and playing with the B team weekly. This is a guy that Hearts had a lot of high hopes for, going back to when he was 15. I think there was interest from England. He was brought up to train with the first team with James Wilson. So it's a big season coming up for him. If he can, got a question asked on Twitter about a potential loan, but I think the most important for him now is to play regularly in the B team, find a settled position, and if he's played 15-20 games by January and he's really impressed and he's kicked on, I wouldn't rule out, because that would take him up to 66-70 games in with the B team, and then it's probably would be that time where you think if he's doing really well, then have a loan. So that's I'm glad to see him getting a new deal, and really looking forward to see him with the B team next season. Finally,
I think I would say that just to add to that, I think in general it would be interesting to see what happens with some of these players next season with the loan system, with the cooperation agreements coming in. There's a lot more flexibility for clubs. They're not just sending somebody away, and then if he doesn't play, they're kind of not getting any minutes. There is a lot more sort of flexibility for recalling them and all that kind of stuff. So it could mean that more players go out on loan. A bit more experimentation with loans rather than just waiting for the right time and waiting for the right. I mean, you still should at the same time. You still got a duty of care to the player and the clubs that you're sending them out to, but you might see a bit more of a loosening of that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And Hearts have been agreed one with the Spartans, which is again used to Ainsley. Everyone's used to Ainsley Park, so that does provide a different avenue for players, because it's going to be interesting. It's got another thing that's going to be I think to look out for is with the changes at the kind of youth level as well. So there's a 17s, there's no longer an under 18s, so there's a 17s and 19s, and then they've got the B team, and then the cooperation agreement. So across there's loads of different kind of levels that players will drop in and out of. Speaking English, he mentioned that they will be conscious of who plays against who. If they think that there's a better test against maybe Celtic under 19s or a really good under 19 side rather than the B team, then they'll move players around, so they'll get different development opportunities. So it'll be definitely one for us to keep an eye on as we try and keep covering the B team as much as possible next season. The Gorgie Boys podcast, was there a reason it's only a 1-year deal for Pollock? I think you'll find that at this, when it gets to that age, if you're not a first team regular, or maybe or not played too much in the first team, I think it's one where they just give a year extension just to see if they can make that jump and be that regular player, and then maybe look to get a longer term deal. For example, Forrester got a longer term deal, having been a right back for a lot of this season. Macaulay Tate got a longer term deal, having broken into the first team and been around the first team quite a bit. But like Craig said, he'll most likely go on loan to the Premiership this season. And finally, before we answer some questions that came in, set play coach finally has been announced. Ross Grant has arrived from previous post working with the Dundee United Academy. In his past, he has worked with Austin McPhee, of course, former Hearts interim coach, but he's worked with him with McPhee's role with Aston Villa, Scotland national team, FC Midtjylland, who are, of course, our favourite Danish team at the moment. He has worked with McPhee and all of those as part of his set piece kind of operation, if for want of better words. So yeah, that's finally been done and dusted, and it's an area where I think Hearts, and especially Graham Jones working with Jamestown, see as an area of growth as you look for like marginal gains and all that talk. Yeah,
no, it's interesting. I mean, it's not something that you'll kind of see the day-to-day workings of, but hopefully, I mean, I was going to refer to an article that you'd written, but it's never actually seen the light of day. But
next week, finally.
Yeah, it is something that can be improved upon, and it's something that you hear people grumble about and ask questions about and things like that. And I think that might have been one of the inspirations for your article as well. So yeah, it'll be good to see if Hearts can get any benefit from it. And Midtjylland, you mentioned they were famed for their set pieces at one point. It was a huge thing that they ploughed a lot of resources into. So it'd be an exciting addition.
Yeah, the article that Craig mentions is about throw-ins. So there we go. Scott M asked, will the set piece coach address our god awful throw-ins? I believe that'll be part of the remit, because having spoken to people, that it's an area that Jamestown have pinpointed as something Hearts can improve, because I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I wrote it a wee while back and it's a wee bit tidied up, but there's like 20-25 throw-ins a game. Like the Hearts will get 20-25 throw-ins a game, so there's 20-25 opportunities to progress the game, to keep possession, to have different to challenge opposition in different ways. And it's something that Hearts were, going by the stats, like the least dangerous team from set pieces as well last season. Well, one of the least dangerous teams from set pieces last season. They weren't very good at keeping the ball for long periods, especially in the final third from throw-ins. So yeah, kind of dug into all that. This was ages ago, so when I spoke to James Penrice for an interview and asked him a wee bit about throw-ins, and he talked about it as well. So yeah, that's an area. And that's the jumping off point. It's a bugbear for fans because they get it a lot of the time. So yeah, hopefully that's something that we worked on, because under Stephen Naismith, I think the underlying numbers weren't as good as what the output is. I think we overperformed with set pieces under Stephen Naismith, but it was something that he focused on, Frankie McAvoy focused on, and then last season there was encouraging encouraging numbers via set pieces. So but it's definitely something where you can get a lot of improvement in. You can get a lot of improvement in.
Yeah, it's something that's been identified a number of years ago now at the elite level as treated as a set piece, like other set pieces are, like your traditional free kicks and corners and stuff. But more recently, and maybe even as recent as the start of last season or the season before, I can't remember exactly, centres are now being treated as set pieces, like a way to kind of... I mean, obviously, where you're attacking from, the chance of it leading to a goal's a lot less, but there's a lot more focus now on how teams take centre and how they can gain a specific advantage from centre. And Brentford are one of the leaders in it. And if you look at their goals from last season, sorry, it's just coming back to me now that it's because I'm doing this off the top of my head. Brentford, linked to Midtjylland, are one of the teams that score the most early goals. And I think it's linked to the way that they kind of are able to dominate the game early from taking kickoff.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be, hopefully we'll see improvements and gains on that in the coming weeks and seasons to come. Get to some questions. Robert Gill asks, have you heard any rumours on who will be Tony Bloom's representative from the board? No, not who, but I do believe it will be someone who's very close to him, kind of close advisor, and they've been at Tynecastle a couple of times now and are really excited to get on, to come on board, pardon the pun, and get involved and help Hearts move forward. Fiona Young asks, is Shanklin staying? At the moment, no. He is currently in Dubai, where he's working with Kieran Trippier, James Tavernier, working in his off season, and who knows where he'll go next. Sam Phillips says, can we discuss you bring up Barry Mackay in the best Hearts 11 since 2000? No, Sam, we cannot. That was a one-time thing only. Any Shanklin news? And I think the only other ones were from on social media, on Twitter. Stuart Moody asks about Chesnikov, the latest on Chesnikov. Still, it's turning into a transfer saga. Whether it's going to be a pre-contract, it's one that's being, as far as I'm aware, it's difficult. It's proving difficult to get done this summer. It is a position, right wing, that Hearts want to bring someone in. It's a key. It's a priority position. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple of wingers. So that's again kind of wait and see. But at the moment, it's not looking overly positive. But hopefully, things may have changed from the last time I got an update. And then Matthew Harrell asks about rumour to Craig Halkett to Dundee. That first I've heard of it, but it's certainly a. I think Halkett could have interest. It'll be interesting to see what his future holds this summer. Personally, I think if you could guarantee him being fit for the whole season, it would. I would have him and Stuart Findlay as the best centre back partnership. But over the last 3 seasons, Halkett's played 37 games, so that is it's something that that he might be a player that Hearts might look to move on if the opportunity persists. If the opportunity comes up, and if, for example, Dundee, it would be a huge improvement for Dundee to bring him in. But we'll see what comes in the coming days and weeks. I think we'll get a better idea of terms of outgoings over the next couple of weeks as well, because it is. Despite all the signings, people are a wee bit anxious about the size of the squad. But I do think it will start to kind of thin out as we get closer to the Premier Sports Cup. We'll leave it there unless there is anything else. Craig, no, good, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for contributing and watching, engaging. And apologies for the start. It was a surprise to both of us. And it was. I was going to say it won't happen again. There's every likelihood it will. But until next time, see you later.